Hello and welcome to Tell Us Your Effing Story, a podcast by franchisors for franchisors that goes behind the scenes with some of the most interesting people and characters in the Australian franchising industry. I'm your host, Bruce McFarlane, with my co-host, John Sully, and today we're speaking to Kerri Wane, the CEO of San Churro.
Righto, Kerri. Tell us your fucking story.
Oh, straight into it. I love it.
John, it's franchising.
Sorry.
Tell us your franchising.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to bring a bit of decorum back here. Tell us your
That's
franchising.
disappointing.
Yeah. Tell us your franchising story. You know, we're going to go right back. So tell us, where did you grow up? What your mum and dad do? What you do? What did you love to do as a kid?
Yeah, sure. Well, I grew up in sunny Newcastle, much farther away from the weather down here in Melbourne, rather. So I grew up there and, single child, so got to get everything to myself and absolutely spoiled rotten. So, great sort of place to grow up as well. Great lifestyle, great schools, great culture. So fantastic. And it was really, really interesting when I was reflecting on it driving in today. Had lots of really strong women role models in my life growing up. So, my mum, she was a nursing administrator who grew up into hospital management and did a lot of work in the disability sector, transforming laws and championing things like that. So absolutely got a certain stubbornness and I guess the passion to make a difference from her. Very, very strong leader in her community and an amazing person. And
Must be.
Yeah, really great.
It's a unique breed, that sort of role, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of selfless. And then my auntie's like CEO of hospital as well. And then there's my grandma who played a huge role in my life growing up. She babysitted me until I was about 3 years old and did all of that sort of stuff. And, she was a prisoner of war that came out from the Ukraine, believe it or not. So,
wow.
Yeah, got displaced in World War II, came through Germany, was a slave in a camp, eating cockroaches and going through all sorts of abuse and hard times. And then they were actually supposed to catch the boat to Canada and they were sick. So ended up getting on the next ship out to Australia and, being in a migrant camp for a period of time and, paying... building our own house with our hands with my grandfather and talk about resilience and stubbornness and just the ability to get things to happen. And then on my dad's side, my grandmother, exactly the opposite, best homemaker ever, caring, nurturing, beautiful. So really, really great to have those role models growing up in a really nice family. So I guess that's that side of it. But my parents divorced when I was, I'm going to say 3 years old. And that's pretty common in Sydney or Melbourne, I would think. But in a little town like Newcastle, I reckon I was one of two people in my grade of like 100 people, where that was the case. So, we had a lot of people coming in and out of life. My dad was very adventurous, remarried 3 times.
Has he got it right yet? Or?
Yeah, he stuck the last one for a good period of time, maybe 15 years.
Well done.
Yeah, so good on Colleen. She's done well. So I had like 3 stepmothers and brothers and sisters and all of that sort of stuff coming in and out of life. And same on my mum's side, had a stepfather come in and out. We had all these, because my mum was a single mum working her butt off, trying to make ends meet. Had all these people sort of staying with us in the house and coming in and out as well. So do you need to get that? Am I boring you?
Yeah, just give me a minute.
That's hilarious. Should have set the ground rules, turn the phone off.
I know. Yesterday I got up and I told everyone to turn their phones off. And
Terrible.
yeah. So what about as a kid for you? Like, into sport or a school or
Yeah, absolutely.
What were the things that kept you busy?
So that was the thing, right? When you've got all that change and that uncertainty going on, I guess you kind of go a couple of different ways with it, right? And so the way I got into things, it was very much around music. Like I did all the grades in piano and violin and trumpet and this and that, and tried a billion different sports and hobbies and various things. So I was always like super active and busy as a kid, I guess, and also super resilient. I think. And very stubborn as well, I would say. I remember this time where I wanted to play cricket as a sport, and there was no girls' sport back in those days, no sporting teams for that. So I don't know what I was thinking. I was about 8 or 9, and I got the rule book out for the cricket club, and I marched into the president's office, and I'm like, mate, it doesn't say girls can't play in the team. So anyway, got myself on the sporting team. The guys hated it because I'm this sort of, and I took one of my mates along as well. So there's 2 of us playing cricket. We were terrible. We batted like 10th and 11th drop. And we were the girls on the team. But I remember another time I caught a bus to be part of the television choir, just because I wanted to go do that. So I think that that independence and that passion to do something started pretty young. Yeah, I would say. Yeah.
Newcastle's a big surfing town. We stopped there. Did you jump on the surfboard when you grew up there, or?
Definitely spent a lot of time at the beach. Terrible surfer. My dog surfs better than me. She's a border collie and she loves it. But spent a lot of time swimming and hanging out. You sort of become two groups in Newey. You're either down at the beach or you're in the back of the schoolyard doing other things. So went the beach route, which was really nice. Yeah.
Beautiful place.
What did your dad do, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, a few different things. Like he had various businesses, clothing business for a while, real estate, just went in and out of different things. But now with his current wife, they own a housing. They're in New Zealand,
Right.
so they own like a housing accommodation business, sort of over 55s, sort of village setup. Yeah.
Yeah, so you obviously got a good work ethic from all the family.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a bit too much. Absolutely, and buckled down in school pretty hard as well. Yeah.
And from into high school, so what sort of subjects were you interested in? Because, we're going to talk about your university. You've studied pretty much everything at university. So, at school, though, what were you interested in from an academic point of view?
Oh, I did music, I did some of the arts, but also science was my love, I guess. So I was really, really good at maths and science and analysing things and getting into, say, biology, physics, chemistry, all of that sort of stuff. But to be honest, I was into all of it, and the electives list comes out in year 12. I'm like, well, how am I supposed to choose this? Like, I just want to do everything. I want to do economics, I want to do this, I want to do that. Yeah, but sort of went down the science route, I guess, in the end.
And was there and so there was also an interest in business as well? Like, did you have any what sort of jobs were you doing when you were at school, and part-time jobs or starting little businesses or doing things like that?
Well, I always wanted to be a doctor, right? Because all my family is like, the auntie was a CEO in a hospital, my mum's doing this thing. But I'm an absolute idiot with shapes, would you believe? So back in the day, you had to do this psychometric test to become a doctor. So I got the marks and I did really well with that. And you've got to do these 3D shape things to get into it. Oh, for the life of me, I'm just terrible at it. So didn't end up doing that. So
What relevance has that got to being a doctor?
Well, I think you'd put the gallbladder in backwards, mate. I think if you want to be a surgeon, that's not a great grounding in what needs to happen. So I guess if I wanted to be a GP, I probably didn't push it hard enough and think it through. So I sort of had my heart set on doing that originally, and then sort of didn't know what I wanted to do. So let's pick a science degree or something I'm good at. But when I was 15, my mum got a bit sick of me and said, "Look, you need to go and get a casual job, get out of the house." I was a bit recalcitrant and really had a lot of hobbies and wasn't that interested, to be honest. But for no better reason than my boyfriend at the time was a delivery driver at Silvio's Pizza. I got a job at Silvio's, which then sold and became Dominos back in the day. Yep, so I went to work there. Was initially quite terrible at it. So they had me cutting onions for the first couple of it was brutal.
So you
that was before the pre-cut days. So good initiation, and but much to my mum's absolute dismay, I think. I actually really loved the job in the end. So ended up sort of running shifts. This was before child labour laws were a really big thing, I guess. Ended up sort of running shifts at the tender age of 16, and much to her absolute horror, I guess I became like an assistant manager through year 11 and 12, working 32 to 35 hours a week through my HSC and VCE. So what an awesome experience, and learning how to do rosters, control your costs, build sales, lead a team at that age was amazing. And I just got bitten by the bug. We had an amazing store. The phone would ring, everyone would run to answer it. We'd try and be the fastest pizza maker in Australia. We'd had great friends and really created an awesome store and environment that grew. And that the rest was history. The bug just bit me, and I remember the day I went home and told my family, "Look, I think I want to work in retail and hospitality for the rest of my life." And the look.
Hang on. You were going to be a doctor, and now you're going to cut up.
Just didn't seem to stack up, and it wasn't probably for another 3 or 4 years till that career trajectory sort of built up, and I started earning some good coin as a result of that decision, and sort of challenging some of their salaries that, okay, maybe this thing can work, and maybe there's a good career path that can come of this for people. So
Well, all pizza's around, so you can't sort of fuck that up.
That's a great insight, mate. Yeah.
Because you were no good at shapes.
Appreciate that.
So we'll just keep on the school for a sec. So you did a science degree, so you're working in managing pizza shop, but gone and put yourself through a science degree, and then So still in Newcastle?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I did science, but subsequently realised that maybe my passion in school for it probably didn't develop into a full-on obsession with the strict sciences, I suppose. So one of the routes you could go down was actually psychology and management in that degree. So I took a lot of psych electives and some management electives, just general electives as part of that degree, and just combining that with what I did at work and my passion for training people and leading people and whatnot. That was the route I went down, and I actually became really passionate and interested in HR, training, leading people, and really applied that way too seriously into my work environment at the time for a 19-year-old kid. Ended up taking on the training of sort of Newcastle, the Central Coast, et cetera, et cetera. So that's sort of how the connection happened there. And then I remember I was doing close shift at midnight, hence my beautiful love of late nights, not early morning. I was reading a newsletter that came out from America, and it said, there's an international trainers conference on in this date, come on over. So I thought that'd be awesome. That's something I'm really interested in and something that connects to what I love and what I'm doing. So I actually paid for myself to go over to the conference. It was $3,000, which was a lot of money for me at the time back in the day. And turns out I was only the person in Australia that rocked up. So there was me representing Australia. It's quite hilarious when I reflect on it now. And, 50 other people from different countries around the world at this conference. And, got this amazing mentoring from the global training directors and all of the big wigs at Dominos, and landed back in the country as one of the few people that knew about Domino's training systems and what we needed to sort of roll out nationally. And
did the head office people pick up on that you were there? And
well, no, I don't think they were aware that I was there, but you know how a lot of things come about due to luck, in people's careers and trajectories, don't they? And as luck would have it, I brought back all of this learning from the conference and presented at the franchise meeting for Newcastle on the Central Coast. And the CEO turned up with, the national manager and whatever else. And they're like, A, who is this person? B, what's going on here? And so, probably within about 3 to 6 months, I found myself living in Sydney and working at head office.
Doesn't sound like a lot of luck to me.
No, a lot of hard work. But so just to map it out, so you're working part-time in the business, you've gone and put yourself through a degree, but then you've ended up as Domino's as your first sort of full-time role when you finish your degree, and you've ended up as the national training manager after doing this.
Oh, a few steps. Obviously I worked full-time during uni, and then did a state training manager role for probably about 9 months, and then the national training manager one was hilarious. I think I was only 20 or 21 at the time, and I saw that I had half the country and another guy had half the country. Naturally, when you're young, you think anything's possible, and there's a fair degree of confidence or arrogance there that probably gets beaten out of you as you get older. So I said, you know what, I'd love that job. How about it? And everyone just looked at me and went, nah, you're 20. That's just not going to happen. So took a leaf out of my mum's book, I guess, when she was doing a lot of the law reform. Developed a strategic plan, honestly, with her help, if I'm being completely transparent.
Sure.
But I had all the content and all the sort of wherewithal in terms of what we were going to do, and then pitched it to the CEO and everybody and said, no, want the job. And again, they said, oh, look, we'll just wait and see. We'll run the recruitment process and see how you go. And I was sitting on Bondi Beach on my 21st birthday, having the day off, and Andy, my boss at the time, gave me a call and they said, oh, you've got the gig. So I'm like, that's amazing, that's super cool. And because I'd sort of got a lot of mentors from overseas, and I think they put that really nice support structure around me to help me succeed and grow in the role.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Good on you.
So your psychology and your people background and stuff, and then now you're doing the training, and then training up to training director. But we're going to take a different path now. So I know a little bit about this story, but you decided you wanted to go global. Take your brand global. Because
that's what you do at 23, right? You're like, I'm done here in Australia.
I've done this.
Nailed this. Yeah.
Cross it off the list. Yeah.
So tell us about the looking around the world. Where can I make my biggest impact?
Yeah,
and where you ended up.
Well, I did the gig in Australia for a couple of years, and hopefully added some value. Made a lot of mistakes in that role as well, but it culminated us in winning an award, which I think was the best training country in the world across 76 countries. So I was pretty happy with that, and naturally thought it was time for that international transfer. So I made
23, going overseas.
Made the call off overseas. It's pretty funny. Made the call, and obviously 23, you're thinking America, Paris, London, somewhere really cool that I can do a bit of travel and
something's coming down
the pipe.
Yeah,
there was a bit of a surprise there. So they came back and they said, look, we've got India. And I said, oh, okay, all right. And that was an emerging market at the time that only had a handful of stores and that were looking to grow aggressively and really put some of that infrastructure and process in place to do that. So blindly, without knowing very much about India at all, this was in 2000. My knowledge of India was pretty limited. So you know what? I'm going to just take a leap and
hang on. You
give
played
it a go.
cricket. You'd be all over it. That's all you need to know.
No, but you're not kidding, Bruce. You go to India, and if they know cricket stats like no one else, and if you can be on that page, it's a great foot in.
There. I'm all over cricket.
I was actually I went to the cricket in Mumbai, and I was probably one of 5 Australians in the crowd. It was purely intimidating, 100,000 people, and
fun, though.
Sachin Tendulkar gets out. It's like pin drop silence. Everyone's looking. So risky. But anyway, ended up going to India. So initially, I think as the training director of South Asia, because we had the master franchise rights for 4 countries. So it's a pretty surreal experience. I mean, I landed there, I was 23-year-old single white female, and then suddenly in charge of, a fairly large team and a network of, let's say, a couple of thousand people, and I was the only sort of foreign worker in that environment. So,
how many stores in India at that point?
At that point I landed, it was about 30 stores, and they had a big, hairy, audacious goal of getting to 100 within a year. So, didn't have too much time to get the feet under the table. It was very much, hey, we're at 30, we're opening XYZ number a week, whatever the maths adds up to there. You need to hire your team, work out a way to train everyone. We know it's not going to be perfect, but we're going, and then double back and put the systems and things in place that we need. So we certainly went on that adventure. Pleased and sad also to say that we did hit the 100-store goal nearly within that time frame. And my fondest story was we had this event at the Taj Mahal and rented it out at night. I have no idea how we did that because that's quite hard to secure. And 100-store celebration, everyone from around the world flies in. Super exciting time to celebrate. Bollywood stars dropping out of helicopters, the whole bit, right? An amazing celebration. Everyone obviously gets pretty happy and celebrates massively. And that was all great for about 6 weeks. And then the reality of that fast expansion hit, and I remember going to a board meeting maybe a couple of months after it, and I can't remember the question, but basically if you said yes, you stayed, and if you said no, you left, because what became really apparent was the expansion was too fast, and we'd made a lot of mistakes in site selection and getting the rentals right, and expanding in a way that wasn't sustainable or profitable. So unfortunately that celebration was very short-lived, I suppose, and we closed about, I think it was around 20 stores within about 3 months of that realisation. So new CEO comes in, new exec team comes in, and it's very much going into now a turnaround phase of that business. So how do we right size it, get the right property, get the right team in place, consolidate the business, turn it around, and then look to then grow and expand the business.
And they were all company stores?
At that stage, yeah, but we had franchise partners in Sri Lanka,
right,
and Bangladesh and Nepal. Yeah.
And was the revenue there?
Yeah, the revenue was there. It was just the box economics, like the actual site decisions and everything. I think much higher revenue now, obviously, because pizza, I think when I first went there, pizza would go to Pizza Hut and put tomato sauce on their pizza and eat it with a knife and fork. So it wasn't a mainstream food in India. Yep. So there was a piece about educating the customer about pizza, and you'd see people tip it over and eat it with like it was chapati bread with the toppings. So how do you eat pizza? What do we do? And it's a bit of a show-off thing. Back in the day, you go out with your friends and family and you're at Dominos, and we had some dine-in restaurants, so very different to what we see in Australia. So
how many stores would they have there now, do you think?
Oh, amazingly successful business now.
Thousands.
So they've got 1,600 just in India alone. They've obviously got the rights for the other countries. And not only that, they've actually bought, I think, 5 other brands under the wheelhouse as well. So they've become a multi-branded company. And what's really, really nice to see is a lot of the talent that we developed in those days has gone on to be CEOs or business owners or really, really successful people in their own right. So the business has thrived and, the talent has as well.
23, that's pretty cool. There's a lot of hard knocks in that.
Yeah.
How long were you there for?
5 years.
Bloody hell.
So you went from a HR role to a COO role, so across all the operations. So for India. So when you saw it go really quickly, contract, and then obviously it's how did the growth go after that? Like once did they
put it back down? Yeah.
Put it back
well, it's
together
interesting
again.
how I went to the HR to the ops role. So we had an amazing CEO. His name's Arvind Nair. Come in, and by far one of the best mentors I've ever had in my career. Really had a lot of trust and confidence in me, but was a great mentor and teacher. So what ended up happening was he must have seen something in me in terms of ability to carve a P&L up or do something that made a difference. So we just had so much work. We ended up dividing the ops role in half. So I ended up with the 2 regions that really sucked and bled cash.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
And the other guy sort of ended up with the regions that he had more long-standing relationships in that were profitable. So it really gave me an opportunity not to only work in that HR and ops space, but to get in under the hood, do a complete turnaround of those regions, lead teams, and get the ops part of the business right. And then, he left and I took on the entire role and then moved into the COO role. So incredible opportunity.
So the other regions, so you said Bangladesh, were you...
Not at that time. So I'd launched Sri Lanka at that time, and then we were setting up to go into the others. But the focus was just, let's get the beast that we've got right and expand it from there. And
so when you came... After that, you didn't try and go to other countries, like you'd done your Indian stint. It wasn't then to go, oh no, I did originally want to go to the States or go to... So it was come back to Australia at this point?
I did look at one role in the States. Naturally, I thought I should be the head of global training or something like that next. Someone else nabbed me to that one, which probably worked out for the best. But yeah, I sort of thought, what a great 5-year stint in India to have worked in a senior role and lead the businesses through those phases. I've made an incredible difference, but it's actually made a bigger difference to me in terms of who I am, and it's given back more to me than what I've gotten. So time to head home and see what's next in life.
Which is when around this time, was this when you decided that your HECS debt wasn't high enough and you wanted to actually keep spending some more money on higher education? Because you've got a law degree, and an MBA, so just for your troubles, And
just to be clear, that will be the last degree. So I have no ambitions to go and I think $100,000 of HECS debt over the 15 years seems to be enough. So
you've gone in and obviously the people related stuff, and you've been involved in HR roles and COO roles, and then the law degree, it looks like you focused a lot on the people side of things and labour laws and stuff as well. So where was it, moving back into people related things rather than ops, or you just enjoyed it? So
no, I just wanted to have a stab at running my own business. When I came home, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I actually spent a period of time where I had my own business for a period of time, which was really, really great. And I had a couple of businesses actually. So the first one was a national training and development business where we sort of provided services to the RTO sector. So we had a call centre, we developed training materials, ran food safety courses, traineeships, apprenticeships across Australia. Obviously quite connected in the Dominos network, so very easy to take that from zero to hero exceptionally quickly. So that was a great experience. And then together with my partner, we also had some Domino's stores as franchise partners. So,
right, you're a franchisee.
So which is, I'm so grateful that I did that, because now when I'm speaking to franchise partners, I genuinely
I was one,
and genuinely, I really understand literally what it takes to put your house on the line and what level of commitment that it takes to become a franchise partner. And I think that's given me just a level of trust and respect for what that takes. And that's very much central to our values at San Churro at the moment, that trust and respect with our franchise partners.
Good on you.
Where were your franchise stores?
In Melbourne.
Sorry?
Melbourne.
Yeah. So how many did you have?
3.
Yeah.
That was a good lesson in itself too. We had a couple that did well, and then we bought the third one, which was a bit of a dog. So,
Bought it from another franchisee or a company
actually
owned?
freshly opened it.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Oh, okay.
Didn't do as well as what we hoped, and so it's always a good lesson and something I do share with our franchise partners. Sometimes it's nice to have 1 or 2 that rock, and rather than 3 or 6 that do half well. Money's money, and how you bank it.
So you
doesn't
came
really
to live.
matter.
So you moved down to Melbourne when you got back from India.
Yeah.
Yeah.
moved
Okay.
down here, yeah.
And so the training business, were you running that at the same time?
Yeah. So partner focused on stores. I was also involved, obviously, but then as the training business grew, it took off quite quickly and spent a lot of my time on that. Yeah.
So what happened to finish that up? Did you sell that business, or you just decided?
Yeah, we carved it up and
Yeah.
sold the various pieces of it. The funding in the training sector, I could see in the horizon that was going to change quite considerably. So thought now's a nice time to wrap both of these up and move on to what's next, which happened to be corporate life. Yeah, so
where you were 28 when you came back, did all that.
good maths.
Yeah. When did you sell the business?
Sometime in my early 30s, I reckon.
Right.
Mid to early 30s, somewhere in that general vicinity. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And then what? Where did you go from there?
Well, I got this call from a headhunter, and it was a weird call because it was a call to go and work in the fashion industry. And I'm sure that, I guess you can imagine Domino's is not the most glamorous from a fashion point of view. Probably got pizza sauce down yourself and you're wearing runners and everything else. So it was quite a mystery to me why someone would be calling me to go and work at Devil and Lovisa. But there was a guy by the name of Tim Hickey there with an ex-Pizza Hut background.
Right.
And his theory was that sort of industry, hospo, is much more complicated than what you need to execute in this particular business. Quite a simple fashion business, ultimately. So he's looking for someone with that level of nous to come in and sort of take things to the next level in that role. So I initially joined there in a HR role. Had a lot of fun with that, actually. It was part of the BBRC group, which is Brett Blundy, and it's obviously at the time he owned Bras and Things, Lovisa, Diva, Dusk, Dares, and that was a really great experience to see someone who how that piece of things worked across all those multiple brands. So that was really, really nice to see. And then unfortunately, maybe a year into that, they decided that Lovisa was going to be the brand to go forward, and we had 600 stores globally, so they were going to keep some of those or close them down or transfer them to being Lovisa. So I actually had the really unpleasant task of restructuring a few times, helping with that transition. And I did get another role offered at another company, which I declined, and then put my hand up to be the head of merch planning. So and that was fantastic. Like, that was a completely different thing.
Merch,
Very
I
different,
know.
yeah.
Out of the people side.
Well, it's actually quite hilarious
Yeah.
because not only have you got the numbers and the stats and the rats and all that sort of things going on, inventory, stock, driving, all of that. You're also in all these buying meetings where you're looking at Prada handbags and trying to replicate them and do a range of things. So it was an entirely different world, but it's really lucky that Brett mentored me on some calls and really got me up to speed with how to perform effectively in that role, and really grateful because it's given me a great understanding of supply chain and re-engineering that side of things, and it gave me a great opportunity to sort of see a different industry and a different side of life. And of course then Diva did give way to Lovisa, and I went to work for Mark and Colette at Colette by Colette Heyman over there. They actually had a relationship with Brett back in the day, and then cut off and started that business, and that was my first founder-based business that I'd worked in. So they'd started it from ground up and fully involved in all aspects of the business. So that was a really nice learning curve from that perspective, also in fashion. But I got to work in leading the opening for international markets there. So that was super cool. So we went into the Middle East. I think we launched 5 or 6 countries during my time there. So really great exposure in master franchising and
So
things.
it went into those countries as a franchise? Okay.
Yeah, that's right. So that was amazing. How do you set up a market?
Yeah.
How do you enter a market? What sorts of things do you do to do that successfully? What are the mistakes we made through that? And back to your question about the degree, I actually did my law degree sort of when I was in those HR roles at I think Diva and Colette. I finished that, and the reason for that was I wanted to be super solid on the legal side, and I was doing a lot of restructuring and IR sort of stuff, and I felt that was a weakness for me. But ironically, I very rarely use that degree for that now. It's more franchise agreements, commercial agreements, because obviously you do that basic law
Can I
piece.
just ask you about that for a minute? So they were the countries were franchised, and then they franchised the individual stores, or they did them as company stores?
The countries were master franchise, yeah, and the great majority of the ones we had in that brand would then run company stores, but I think we did have one that did sub-franchising as well.
So how did that go? Because that's you talk about seasons, they got a clear stock. Franchisees don't like to get rid of stock.
Correct, yeah.
How did you manage, or how did they manage that? Were there any franchised here, or were they all company here?
Collet, they're all company here.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, no, it was a big learning curve. I think that's part of it when you're in an international role, particularly if you've got an Australian-based business that's going international. That certainly has been the case in my career a couple of times. It's a big learning curve for the entire support office. I don't think one individual can come in and take a brand internationally. The whole buying team needs to think about seasonality and everything that's involved. And then, you know, the product team, same thing. Finance team, what are the laws? What are the regulations? So it really needs to be that cross-functional, how we're going to do this as a team and launch. And you need to be quite realistic about the timeframes and everything that's required, and make sure you do the due diligence to get it right.
You're sort of ordering like a year. You're looking at Northern Hemisphere stuff, and you're ordering like a year out, really, aren't you? There's some sort of nuance in that.
It's a pretty fast cycle, so it's about 6 months out,
Right.
So, and you've usually got that lead time when you're opening an international market. But yeah, it was a step change because we started to have someone focusing on international and buying a range for that. So obviously some of the ranges were generic and some we had to skew into the seasonality. Yeah.
So your role was in negotiating the international arrangements as well. So what sort of criteria did you think have in place then? Because was it pretty structured, or was it a lot of gut feel? This is the right partner for me.
I think it got better over time, and that's something that I've learnt and taken into subsequent roles. That the number one thing you've got to do when you give someone the rights to a country is not stuff that up.
Yeah.
Because you can I've closed countries across my career. It's really bloody painful to try and shut down India, for example. The navigation into a legal system and how do you do that, and the legal minefields and things you can inadvertently fall into, and the time that sucks is absolutely just not great. So I think the range of criteria, obviously, but very much does the master franchise partner have the wherewithal, the financial capability, and more importantly, if the first one or two don't go well, because they really are a test and you have to test, open it, make adjustments because every market's different, do they have the appetite and the patience to work through that? And definitely learnt that in the India journey too. I remember in our board meetings that pizzas would be thrown across the room because we didn't have the model right in the beginning, but to Harry and Sham's credit, they had the patience to work through that, get the right advice, get it right, and then go. So I think that's just super important when you're dealing with international partners. And then there's a decision around, do they have other brands or a track record of delivering that? And do they have the right team, or will they invest in the right team to get that right?
And so next, I think, is sales. You decided you've done HR, you've done a bit of ops. Let's get into a sales role, Diageo.
Yeah, that was a purely personal decision. My mum got really, really sick with bowel cancer. It was quite advanced. So made the decision to do a bit of a fun job and take a step back. We actually moved to Newcastle. I've got a very patient partner, Luke, who's sort of moved from Melbourne to Sydney, to Melbourne to Sydney to Newcastle.
He wasn't in India though. He didn't.
No, he was not in India. So yeah, I think he did the noble thing, and we moved into a two bedroom apartment in the basement of my mum's house. So he's living with his mother-in-law, and we spent a lot of time caring for her and just going to medical appointments and helping her navigate through that. So very selfless from him to do that. But certainly being the only child, certainly somewhere that I wanted to be. It's the once in a lifetime opportunity for my mum to really fight for her life and to see another good 20 years, and she is in remission and she's absolutely doing that now. So
got through it. Fantastic.
Yeah, got through it. So super happy with that decision. So yeah, just took a contract role at a marketing services company that sort of works for international brands. brands, I suppose, is the best way to describe it. After I did some work across Samsung and a few other sort of brands like that. So that gave me the opportunity to get exposure to some really good FMCG global retail brands, which was really exciting. Not at a high level, just as a project sort of role basis. And then the Diageo gig came up, so that company actually provided all of the field services for Diageo. So you can imagine Diageo is a global liquor company. They'll have reps out there selling things in, doing activations, merchandising, whatever it takes to make sure that Diageo is a leading brand when you go into any retailer around Australia. So my team that I led nationally there was tasked with exactly that. How do we fight for shelf share, drive sales, become the first choice, and drive sell through and create those relationships and those activations that drive the brand for Diageo at the ground level. So cool role, a lot of fun actually. That was one of my more fun roles where just had a great team and we really drove momentum and kicked butt.
And what's Luke doing now? Where's he working? Is he back to you guys still together, or is he back down here?
Yep, no, he's sales repping, so he does a similar thing.
Right.
Yeah, to that.
Because I'm married to a highly intelligent, very ambitious, strong woman, and we have a support group if Luke would like to join that at any stage.
Thanks for making me spit out my drink there, mate. That's look, I think that's really kind.
I just thought I'd throw him a bone.
I'll definitely.
I like the cut of his jib.
Yeah, fair enough.
So you've gone from that, and then so next step I think is back into franchising founder-based business with Mad Mex. It was a contract role when you went there, or was it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Therese at the time, who's just actually
CEO,
got promoted to being CEO maybe 4 weeks ago, I think.
Yep.
Clovis has taken a step up into the MD role and allowed for that. So she was having her second child at the time. It was a mat leave contract for, I think it was about 18 months. So it's a really great opportunity for me to come in and have a good head out, basically. So I'd sort of done that sort of role in India and whatnot, and then done lots of diverse things in between. So I suppose that was the opportunity to come in and really make a difference to a great brand and a great team get...
It was a development role, so it was a franchise development role?
No, it was a chief operating officer role. Yeah.
So there was and was there international aspects to that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So we had New Zealand, and then we did launch into Singapore and Malaysia as well. They've subsequently closed because there was a partnership that dissolved, I guess. So the investors were based over there.
Yep.
But we did launch those two international markets while I was there as well. But incredible opportunity.
Which was around the start. Was COVID? It was before COVID, though, wasn't it?
Oh no, I was actually at Mad Mex when COVID hit.
Yeah.
So we had the pleasure of pivoting and going crazy and getting set up for that. And I think we got those markets open just before COVID. I think
It's a good brand.
I love Mad Mex.
So do I.
I'm very passionate about it, and I really, really enjoyed my time there. Like, not only just from a having a bit of fun and dusting it off perspective, but it's a really values-driven brand. I think when you work for founders, what you find is there's a real sense of purpose, a real obsession and passion for the brand and what's been built, and 9 times out of 10 a real obsession with culture and people and franchise partners. So I guess that's a lot of what I took away from my time at Mad Mex, just that franchisees first, the culture, the team, we're all in it together.
Clovis he's very community minded, isn't he? He does a lot for
absolutely.
I rember he was doing a shaving, or he was doing
shaved his head. He's eating like a Reaper chili.
The Reaper chili, that's right. He was on Channel 9 on Today's Show.
Yeah,
he didn't look great after.
He drank a lot of milk, I think, from memory, and prepped for it for a while. So
that's good.
And I think that's the thing, right? Like, so purpose led and so humble, but also an exciting business that's growing, and I think they've just come out with a release saying that they're looking to sort of get to 100 stores in the near future too, which is exciting.
Yeah, it's really good.
And you and back into food and franchising and food, and so that was, you've obviously the fashion, you've gone through the fashion and
I don't think heels are for me, Bruce.
Yeah,
I think
you felt more comfortable back to the
I mean, I wear them, and look, don't get me wrong, from my fashion days I've got like 40 pairs in my cupboard and they look amazing, but after climbing up some ladders and opening up into international markets in them, I think very much in the wheelhouse of coming back where I started, and could not say no to the opportunity at San Churro. Luke and I actually went on our first date in Melbourne XYZ years ago, and we movie dinner San Churro date, right? So they had me at hello just from that perspective, and I think I just really get the brand because I've been a consumer. Like when Mum was sick, we would go down there for a treat. When my girlfriends and I were going through a gym phase, we'd go down and have strawberries and chocolate and try and convince ourselves that
was healthy.
That was permissible indulgence, is what we now call it or frame it as at San Churro. And yes, I was a long-standing customer. It was very exciting.
You had to stop off before on the way through? Gelatis, mate? Is it before? So how long? So that was that another contract role?
No, I was actually went there from Mad Mex once that sort of ran out. And actually a great business, a family-based business as well. So a bit of a different structure. And actually really enjoyed my time there. So I went originally in an international role, I think, in the beginning, and certainly we actually had established international markets in that role. So we had 6 countries already in existence, but then the big vision was to go into the USA.
USA.
Yeah, and they'd been working on it for like a year and a half before I came, and they had this kiosk in Hawaii that one of the owners had been stalking relentlessly, and of course we launched in Houston as well. So and then ended up helping out across the Australian business as well during my time there. So actually had a great time and loved it a lot. It's just that I got headhunted obviously for the San Churro role, and it's the first CEO gig, so absolutely. And I loved the brand, so unfortunately I did have to leave there.
So some of the key things you're thinking about was what, obviously from your career's point of view, taking it but you're moving back to Melbourne. So what other things were going through your mind as you're going through the process to become the CEO?
I always had it in my head, and I don't know why, that, I had to really be perfect and very well prepared. And don't get me wrong, I certainly am with all the experience I bring to the table. And I had all these lists of what I was working on, and then it was actually a lot more simple than that. A role came up with the brand that I was really passionate about. I'd worked in the founder space before. I knew the brand backwards. I had the experience to sort of go for the role, so it was as simple as just actually going for the role, innately getting the brand, doing the research, and then it's a matter, it comes down to do you gel with Jiro, the other shareholders, and do you think that's a fit? Because I think when you go into particularly a founder-based business, what works in a large commercial like Dominos might not work in that founder-based role, particularly from franchise relationships and that point of view. So it just felt like a really, really good fit. Like San Churro is also very purpose-led, very values-led. We've got great franchise partners, great brand, great product. So they took way too long to call me back after I put the formal application in. I'm like, you don't understand. You need to call. So yeah, it was certainly an opportunity I was very passionate about, and I'm very proud to have gotten the role.
And you've replaced a founder, so but how the process around that, from your thinking about that, does the founder come back? Do they make decisions? He's on the board. How's that all going to play out? I know he's moved away, so that's, is that he's still involved in the business? So how was that? But I guess going into that role, knowing that you're replacing the founder, so how did you prepare yourself for that?
Well, I'll never replace Jiro. He's the founder. I'm never going to try. I think maybe I bring a different set of skills to the table. So we'll always wheel Jiro out. He's always welcome. He's the number one voice in the room. He's built the business. I mean, I went on a visit with him to WA maybe 6 months ago, invited him to come on a market visit with me, and he took me to a store. I built the floor there. I did this, so his intimate knowledge of the business is absolutely pivotal and has been a good guide for me. But ultimately, I've been brought in because he wants to move to Queensland or wants to focus on bigger picture things at a board level, and there is a job to do, right? In terms of, we're at 60 now, and we want to really grow the brand, and that's where I come in to actually provide that value and take it forward. But look, I'm not going to lie, it was intimidating. You've had the founder who's really successfully led the business through COVID, and obviously founded the business. So really, really key was just getting in straight away and developing those relationships, because relationships change in that situation. I've got a situation, we've got 2 other shareholders working as executive directors in the business, which is really exciting. Jiro at a board level, an independent chair. So all of those dynamics need need to change, and I'm an independent CEO, right, coming in, and so there's a lot of work, and everyone's been fantastic, just understanding the hats that we're wearing and how that's all going to work, and talking through it. I couldn't feel more supported. And then just from a franchise relationships perspective, there's obviously a fair bit of fear, right? The announcement goes out, founders moving to this role, he lives in Queensland, and they're all looking at you going, okay, well,
who are you? Who are you?
who are you? Are you going to last?
Yeah.
Who are you? Do you actually make the decisions? Like, do you have the authority to operate this thing? And
Any of them test you?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And I think the strategy there was just pretty simple. Get out and meet everybody. From my perspective, I think I had about just under 100 coffees in 100 days, because it is really pivotal that we have a relationship with franchise partners. We don't have 600 stores, we've got 60, so I can know everybody quite well. And, I'll have a coffee with anyone from our cleaner to someone on the board. It doesn't bother me, and it's a great way to get in, learn the business, understand the priorities, hear people's concerns, and so I think that was really, really successful because I was speaking to so many people, building those personal relationships with them. It was then very easy to say, well, what's everybody saying? How do we roll this up? What are the priorities of the business? And from the big picture perspective, but also what the people on the ground are saying and what our franchise partners are saying. Very, very easy to then bang together a strategy that meets everyone's needs, communicate it out, and start to deliver on it. And I think once people start to see, when our partners start to see movement on that, okay, you've actually listened, we've put some things in place, and then now we're actually starting to see that move, then that excitement and engagement really multiplies quickly.
Did they make it work in a store?
Absolutely, yeah. Yep, absolutely. I did 4 shifts in... Well, they didn't make me. I mean, I chose to...
You wanted to, yeah.
Yeah, do. I thought I still fancied myself from back in the day. So,
one for you, one for me.
But if you're going to learn the business, you've got to get out to the warehouse. You've got to actually do shifts in a store and live the life and understand it from a team member's perspective as well. Yeah.
So when did you start there? Sorry, how long ago? 6 months
just
ago?
under 2 years.
Is that right?
Yeah, so I think my
Holy
anniversary...
shit.
I know, time flies, right? So 2 years at September, I think it is. Yeah.
And so you've come into a business with a founder, but they will have had a strategic plan or a direction of things that they were trying to achieve at the time. You've come in with fresh eyes to have a look at that. So how did the process go around developing the strategic plan that you're delivering as the CEO compared to the one that was kind of already in place? Yeah,
we had a strat map, I suppose, and an overall strategy. But fortunately or unfortunately, COVID also intervened in that a little bit. So there's parts of that got executed and parts that were sort of not and put on hold for various reasons. And I suppose that was a really nice opportunity for me to come in and just assess it. Where are we now compared to that? What's everyone saying? What are the opportunities in the marketplace? Let's look at it newly. So working with the board and the exec team to then say, okay, we're keeping this, or we're keeping the overall framework of it, but then XYZ's changing to move us forward. So the first sort of 6 months was obviously learning the business, carrying forward what we had, but then when it came to sort of Feb, I think I started in September, in Feb we put down a 3-year strat, a 5-year strat actually, in that February, which took us forward for the next 5 years and was a little bit different and a lot more aggressive on a growth front.
So what you really have done, your grounding has been extraordinary, really. You quite extraordinary. What are you, as Bruce said, you're coming in, your new role, what have you learnt? Because you're the CEO, but you're basically acting as an owner. You effectively are. I mean, you've got a board and all that sort of stuff. But what do you get in there and go, there are 2 things that I have to do straight away with this business, or 3 things. What would they be?
Well, there's a lot going right, but if I was to say what are the 2 things that I focused on straight away, it was franchise partner profitability and the customer experience. And the reason I picked those 2 were, weirdly enough, we had our most profitable year for franchise partners in COVID. So definitely the rental subsidies, JobKeeper, they absolutely did their job. So not proud of the fact that was our most profitable year, but it did mean that we had franchise partners happy and cashed up, and we didn't lose any stores during COVID, which was really great. And in fact, I remember walking in and seeing us being the last brand standing in a lot of shopping centres during that period, which we're really proud of. But then when I stripped those numbers out, and I said, okay, if we take all those subsidies out and the rent out, how are we looking, and what does that look like from a return on investment point of view for a franchise partner? So if I want to grow and I want to accelerate the great brand and the great foundation that we have, obviously the ROI needs to be exciting to attract people into those opportunities. So that was the first priority, just take franchise partner EBITDA up by a couple of percent points, and also simultaneously work on store build cost and the design, and make sure that we zero base that, and that we had a really good model so that we knew we could pay back relatively confidently within half a lease or whatever that looks like. And then we start to have something that really has good movement and traction. So and in strong headwinds too, like it's pretty brave to say that we're going to do that, particularly in the current environment, but very pleased to say that we have put those points on the bottom line, and we have done that design work.
I think one of the things that you've been successful is that the fact that you have increased the profitability, the multi-unit approach, and so you've got a lot of your partners that are saying we want our second and our third store and stuff like that. So that must be really pleasing for the owners and for you as a CEO to say, look, we've made these people successful, in coming into our system and benefiting from that. And so, how's that strategy? Is that a key part of the strategy now?
Absolutely. I mean, like I said before, our franchise partners put their house on the line. So we stand on the shoulders of what they do. Our growth and success depends on making them successful. That's really strong cultural part of our business. So, and obviously this year's a tough year too. We sort of mentally think we're out of COVID, but if you look at the headwinds, we've got, rents going up by CPI plus XYZ%, which is the amazing Fair Work announcement of 5.7% on minimum wage and all of those factors. So we need to double down and be twice as aggressive in that area, just to make sure that we're protecting that margin for our partners and making sure that they're 100% successful.
Are you in contact with a lot of other franchisors?
Yeah, well, I've worked in a number, so absolutely keep in contact. Yeah. But
do you think, Bruce and I were talking about this at lunch. That we've done quite a few of these podcasts now, and what are the big takeaways from it? And I certainly know with the Michelle's experience, it was all about making sure that they made money.
Yeah, sure.
End of story. If they made money, they grew, then everyone's happy.
Who made money in Michelle's or the franchise partners?
Franchisees.
Great.
Franchise partners. That's what it was all about.
Yep.
And everyone that's been sitting in your chair who's been successful has said exactly the same thing.
Yeah, right.
And I think that there are a lot of franchisors out there that don't get that.
I think so too, and that's something that we hear quite a lot in our franchise recruitment sort of process when we're speaking to people. Luckily, we've got a lot of internal interest, but obviously there's some areas where we might not, and we do bring external partners in to bring some new blood. And they talk about the meetings that they have with us and the interactions they have with us, and they'll talk about them in the terms of we're values led, we're there for franchise partners, and they can actually noticeably see the difference in the tone and the meeting with us. And then they'll talk about some other franchisors that they meet with that perhaps would take a check from anyone, I suppose. Yep. And that's something that we guard quite tightly. Like I would never want to see us start taking a check from anyone, because that's the day where your brand's diluted.
Absolutely.
You lose what you've worked your tail off. Like Giro's and the team have done an amazing job of building a passionate brood of franchise partners, and we don't want to stuff that up, basically. Yeah.
And it doesn't take a lot to change that trend
really
of a lifetime of a business.
And I think too, it's something we drive with the team, because we're setting up for really rapid growth now, so we've had a lot of external people come into our support office to do that. And again, always reinforcing that with anyone that comes in. Our franchise partners are front and centre. We're very respectful, and it's all about them.
Investor based or owner operator based? San Churro.
We have both.
Combo.
We've got both. I think, one of my favourite franchise partners is in Wollongong. He's an ex-detective, believe it or not. So he gave up the blood and gore to love San Churro and wanted to open his own cafe. And, he's got some other ones in WA who always just want to own their one cafe. They're very passionate. They run great stores. But we've also got some more sophisticated investors that, have 5 going on 20 in their mind, and want to help us launch into New Zealand and do other things like that. So I think different stores for different people, right? What might sort of suit a single unit person might not be a store that a multi-unit operator might want to purchase. So, but I think it's just the right opportunity with the right profile of person.
Fantastic.
And you mentioned a few times you've worked in founder-based businesses that are, and I know lots of the ones that we work with, the founders are making decisions and stuff. To set a board structure up is, at a business at a size you are, it seems more like acting like the big business that they want to become, and having an independent chair. So that's been, I think, something that you've enjoyed, having that sounding board as an independent CEO
Absolutely.
into the business. So how does that relationship play out?
Oh, it's amazing. Frances Ann's our chair, and she's a godsend. She's just really brought a lot of that structure in. So when we're going to a board meeting, and I've learned a lot from her personally, so when we're going into a board meeting, just being really clear what's a board decision, what's a exec or management decision. I think that's something that evolves over time as the business evolves, but is now quite clear. How the board papers get presented, how we structure a board agenda, and that plays into that. It's quite clear. And I know Jiro and myself, Frances Ann, we've all sort of done the AICD Company Directors course.
You did do more study. Come on.
It wasn't a degree, and I didn't pay for it.
Kerri, you're
Thank you,
you're a
Jiro.
lost cause.
It was a tough course to go back after a few years.
I know.
So I think we'll put a lot of our executive directors, and we're just putting our CFO through it at the moment as well.
I think it's a really, it's the way that you've talked about that to me. Like it's great, because I think the structure in place, the governance that's in there, that it's, that allows you some freedom to go in some guardrails. I can go and do this, and I can execute on this strategy.
Well, I think that's it, isn't it? So what are the guardrails on risk? What are the guardrails on strat? Who's doing what? But don't get me wrong, like I said, when Jiro speaks in those meetings, it comes with a lot of weight as well. Yeah.
So what sort of, so the qualities as a successful CEO, so you're bringing all these things together, what sort of qualities do you think that you've brought to the table as the CEO?
I like that you've stolen Kevin's question there. Nice work. Love it.
I've got a few. No, I was going to give him a tip for the next couple.
That was question one.
Yeah.
Love it. I think first and foremost, the biggest quality is being all about people. So I'm particularly passionate about people, about our franchise partners, getting to know them. Nothing makes me happier than seeing someone succeed and come up through the ranks and knock it out of the park, or own 5 or 10 stores, or do whatever. So that ability to lead engagement, network engagement, provide a really clear vision and direction, and where we're off to and how you can help and get on board. By far, that's the number one strength I think that I bring to the table, and then that leadership component, and then I think good strategy as well. You've got to be able to come in and see what's going well, what's not, what the opportunities in the marketplace are, carve it up. And that experience in India, where we've gone through that growth, turnaround, rebuild, certainly gives me an awesome toolkit to dig into and really work out how we're going to get there and take the business forward. So very, very passionate about growth and what we can do to take the business forward, whether that's digital or category or our footprint. I don't think you'll ever see me in a role where I'm growing by 1 or 2%. You always see me in roles where I'm pushing and moving and trying to take things forward.
You've had some roles where you mentioned in people-related roles where you've had to let people go, in background, and dealing with conflict is just something that happens a lot in franchising, and dealing with conflict with franchise partners, and as you say, they're putting their house on the line. So how have you had to navigate through that? And it doesn't matter if it's at San Churro or otherwise, of dealing with conflicts with franchise partners that are so passionate, but it's just not working. And so how do you go through that?
Had a call with one the other day who was particularly passionate, but I do respect that. Like I said, they've got their house on the line, and sometimes things get a bit blurred when that's the case. And I think for me, it's just really core values that you need to operate with. So trust, transparency, and getting in early. I think if you get in when there's a problem nice and early, you can basically save it from going pear-shaped, and I think that's really critical. A lot of people dance around and try and be nice about it. I think it's much better to
release the valve.
Yeah, much nicer to be honest and try and get in, stand shoulder to shoulder and work with them to turn the situation around. Having said that, look, if someone did muck with our brand or do the wrong thing, I would not hesitate to take action on that, because we've got so many hardworking, amazing partners that are really doing the right thing, and it can just take one person to put the brand into disrepute or in the media, and that's certainly not something we'd like to see. Have you ever read that book? Is it Radical Candor? I think it's called. Yeah, it talks about ruinous empathy. So sometimes people, they're particularly nice, or they don't want to say a bad thing to hurt someone else's feelings, but the concept is it's actually ruinous. It erodes the relationship over time, and it doesn't actually do the right thing by the franchise partner or the person that you're dealing with to not address the issue and help them to move forward. So the way I frame it in my head is not that I'm dealing with an issue necessarily, it's that I'm actually making a difference to them to help them see something that they perhaps can't see now, and giving them the trust and respect to resolve that, versus sitting on it and Yeah.
People respond to direction. You know, they're looking for it, and particularly if you can justify that direction, which you should be able to, if that is your direction. I agree. It festers. If you're just giving lip service and doing nothing, sitting on the fence, it's
but it does go both
toxic.
In both directions. So if you're going to dish that out, I suppose you've got to be equally willing to.
And you should take it
listen
as well.
to the feedback. Yeah, and
Definitely.
that's something that's an area that I've worked on since becoming a CEO. When my office door swings open 20 times a day, right? So let's say 10 of the times it's great news. Someone's coming to tell me a victory or something like that. 10 times it's like average news or crappy news. And I think my ability as a leader to respond to bad news well is super important, because that's what keeps dialogue open and moves relationships forward.
But that's why you have franchise advisory councils as well, so you can hear from people that are at the coalface what the hell's going on, because you do need to tweak. If you're not looking at it and challenging everything, you're stale.
The more active ours is, the happier I am. I know not everyone necessarily sees it that way, and I'm not talking about stuff that's going off the charts or disruptive, but the more productive decision-making conflict we can have, nearly the better, because we get to see things in a better way. So I had an example of this last week where we had a franchise partner questioning our delivery margins, and we were very confident, I've got this nailed, pricing's perfect, and he's no, this is wrong. And we actually dived into the analysis that was maybe a year and a half old, and lo and behold, he was bloody right. So, we've made a much better decision on behalf of the whole system by listening to that and responding to that.
That's great. Good on you.
Kevin gave me some great questions, but I'm actually going to we're going to just talk about tips now. So, what sort of, I guess, thinking about you and your career. So, firstly, just you as an entrepreneur and as going through the career, what sort of tips have you got for others going through the journey?
First and foremost, have fun. I think I'm in the industry that I'm in the brand that I'm in, because I love it. I have fun, and if you do that every day, then there's not really a hard day's work. So, and the day you stop loving it, and the day you think that you're stale and you can't add value to it, get out of the chair and let someone else that will, I suppose. And second of all, as you can probably see from my trajectory, just go for it. Just you never know. You put your hand up, you go after something. It may or may not work out, but you don't die wondering, do you? I think too many people wait around for a chance when you could be proactively seeking it.
And sometimes, you've got running major teams when you're 21 and 23 and CEO, at a young age. Is it feeling out of your depth is not a problem? It's just, learning along the way. You'll just see it as a challenge.
Oh, that's a nice way to put it. I mean, of course you feel out of your depth sometimes, but and of course you wondered what the hell you were thinking at the time and what you've done, but that's okay. I think once you do it enough, you get to learn that as a temporary feeling, and that stretches your comfort zone, and you learn more, and you become a better person as a result of it, because you learn as much from the stretch as you do from
for sure.
doing what you do every day.
You learn much quicker, don't you? Yeah, when you put yourself in a situation that you're not used to, an uncomfortable situation sometimes. And what about for franchisors? A lot of the people, this is a podcast for franchisors, so we're going to have a lot of emerging franchisors that are listening. So have you got some tips for some of those smaller brands that are going through, the early stage of their development?
Yeah, definitely. I think really listening to franchisee feedback is important, like having great FRC, having those ideas coming through, and spending active time communicating and networking and having those calls and doing whatever you need to do. That really just helps you be smarter and better and guide strategy. I think, like I said before, putting franchise partners first and really having that embedded in the values of your company, particularly for an emerging franchisor, you're not really going to go too wrong, because your success does stand off the back of your franchise partner's success. And I think not taking a check from anyone, like often when we're growing, we'll do whatever it takes to grow, and certainly your first sort of dirty dozen isn't necessarily who ends up being your final partners or on an ongoing basis, but just getting those decisions right and making sure that you define what is alignment with your brand and how you can match the right franchise partners to your brand. Super critical, because I know if I was recruiting at Dominos, what makes a great franchise partner for them certainly is not what makes a great franchise partner at San Churro, and it's really important to understand that.
And like you're saying, in the first 12 might be different again from San Churro, what you're trying to attract now to those guys. So thank you very much. Amazing career and a long way to go, I'm sure, but there's what you've achieved so far is fantastic, so well done.
It's really good. You're a legend. San Churro are in very, very safe hands. Well done.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me today.
Very impressive.
Thank you.